You're not bad with money. Your brain is under attack. You know you should save money. You know you should avoid debt. You know you should invest for the future. You've read the articles, you've watched the videos, you've listened to the podcasts. So why do you keep doing the opposite? Why do you spend money you don't have on things you don't need? Why does your savings account never grow past zero? Why does every paycheck disappear before the next one arrives? Most people will tell you it's a discipline problem. They'll say you're lazy. They'll say you lack willpower. They'll say you just don't want it badly enough. But what if I told you that's a lie? What if the real problem isn't your discipline or your intelligence? What if your brain is under attack? Today we're going to talk about something that no financial advisor will admit. We're not going to talk about budgeting apps or investment portfolios or how to cut your coffee budget. We're going to talk about what happens when your brain is forced into survival mode and why even the smartest people make catastrophically bad financial decisions when the pressure is on. This is not a money problem, this is a neuroscience problem, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand why you've been fighting the wrong battle your entire life. The illusion of rational choice. Let me start with a story. There's a woman named Sarah. She's a nurse. She makes decent money, around $60,000 a year. She's intelligent, she's educated, she went to college, she knows basic math, and yet Sarah has $17,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest. She pays the minimum every month, which means she's essentially lighting money on fire. Now, if you ask Sarah, do you understand compound interest? She'll say yes. If you ask her, do you know you're losing money? She'll say yes. If you ask her, why don't you just stop using the card and pay it down? She'll get quiet. She'll look away, and she'll say something like, I don't know, I can't seem to do it. This is the paradox. Sarah isn't stupid. She's not ignorant. She knows what she's supposed to do, but knowing doesn't translate into doing. And this is where most financial advice falls apart. Most financial advice assumes that people are rational actors operating with perfect information in a calm environment. But Sarah isn't calm. Sarah is drowning. And here's the thing nobody talks about. When you're drowning, you don't think about swimming lessons. You just flail. Section 1. Cognitive overload. The bandwidth tax. In 2013, two researchers named Sendhil Mullainathan from Harvard University and Eldar Shafir from Princeton University published a groundbreaking book called Scarcity: Why Having Too Little Means So Much. It won the Financial Times and McKinsey Business Book of the Year award, but what made it revolutionary wasn't just the economic analysis, it was the neuroscience. They ran an experiment. They took two groups of people and gave them the exact same IQ test. But before the test, they gave one group a simple hypothetical scenario. Your car just broke down. The repair costs $300. How would you handle this? The other group got the same scenario, but the repair cost $3,000. Here's what happened. The people who imagined the $300 problem performed normally on the IQ test, but the people who imagined the $3,000 problem, their effective IQ dropped by 13 points. 13 points? That's the same cognitive impairment you'd experience if you stayed awake for 24 hours straight, or if you were legally drunk. Let me say that again. Just thinking about a financial problem they couldn't solve made people functionally dumber. This is what Mullainathan and Shafir call the bandwidth tax. When your brain is consumed by financial stress, when you're lying awake at 3 in the morning wondering how you're going to pay rent, your cognitive bandwidth gets hijacked. You lose the ability to think long-term. You lose the ability to plan. You lose the ability to resist temptation. Your brain goes into tunnel vision mode. All you can see is the immediate threat. And this is why Sarah keeps using her credit card. It's not that she doesn't understand math. It's that her brain literally doesn't have the processing power to execute the long-term strategy while she's fighting a short-term fire. Now think about what this means. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're constantly worrying about money, you're operating with a permanent cognitive handicap. You're trying to make complex financial decisions with a processor that's running at 70% capacity. You're playing chess with half the board hidden. The system knows this. The system exploits this. Payday lenders know this. Credit card companies know this. They target people under stress because people under stress make bad decisions. And bad decisions are profitable. This is the first attack on your brain, cognitive overload. Your working memory is full, your bandwidth is stolen, and you're left trying to solve a calculus problem with the mental tools of a kindergartner. Section 2. Emotional override. When feelings hijack logic. Now let's talk about the second attack. This one is even more insidious because it happens beneath your conscious awareness. In 2002, Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for his work on human judgment and decision-making under uncertainty. His book, Thinking, Fast and Slow, published in 2011, has sold over 10 million copies worldwide and fundamentally changed how we understand the human mind. Kahneman introduced a framework that explains why smart people do dumb things. He called it System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, automatic, emotional, and unconscious. It's the part of your brain that makes you pull your hand away from a hot stove before you consciously realize it's burning. System 2 is slow, deliberate, logical, and effortful. It's the part of your brain that does math homework or reads a legal contract. Here's the problem. System 1 is always on. System 2 has to be activated. And when you're under stress, System 2 shuts down almost completely. Let me give you an example. Imagine you just had a terrible day at work. Your boss yelled at you. A project you worked on for months got rejected. You feel small, you feel invisible, you feel like a failure. You drive home, you're sitting in traffic, and then you see it. A billboard for a luxury car. 0% financing, no payments for 6 months. And something happens in your brain, you feel a pull. You imagine yourself in that car. You imagine your co-workers seeing you in that car. You imagine the smooth leather seats, the new car smell, the feeling of success. For just a moment, the pain goes away. For just a moment, you feel like you matter. This is System 1 talking. This is your emotional brain screaming for relief. And if you go to that dealership, if you sign those papers, you're not making a financial decision, you're self-medicating, you're using consumption as a painkiller. And here's the cruelest part. It works. Temporarily, when you buy something you can't afford, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. For about 20 minutes, maybe an hour, you feel good, you feel successful, you feel like you've won something, but the debt lasts for years. The dopamine fades in minutes. You've traded long-term financial security for short-term emotional relief, and the worst part? You knew it was a bad idea the entire time. But knowing doesn't matter when your emotional brain is in the driver's seat. This is the second attack on your brain, emotional override. Your logical mind is overthrown by your survival instincts. And your survival instincts don't care about your retirement plan. They care about making the pain stop right now. Section 3. Dopamine coping, the biology of spending. Let's go deeper into this dopamine mechanism because this is where it gets truly disturbing. There's a neurological condition called anhedonia. It's the inability to feel pleasure. It's common in people with depression. And here's what researchers have found. People who are chronically stressed, people who live in a state of constant financial anxiety, develop a mild form of anhedonia. Their baseline dopamine levels drop. The world starts to feel gray. Nothing feels good anymore, except spending money. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Research in 2014 by researchers at the University of Michigan and Stanford University found that people under financial stress experience a stronger dopamine response to purchasing than people who are financially secure. In other words, the worse your financial situation, the better it feels to spend money. Your brain is literally addicted to the thing that's destroying you. This is not a moral failing. This is biochemistry. This is your brain trying to survive in a hostile environment. When everything else in your life feels out of control, when you feel powerless, buying something gives you a sense of agency. It gives you control, even if that control is an illusion. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you're working 2 jobs. You wake up at 5 in the morning, you work until midnight, you barely see your kids, you're exhausted, your body hurts, your life is a treadmill, and then you walk past a store and you see a jacket. It's expensive, you can't afford it, but when you look at that jacket, you don't see fabric. You see what your life could be. You see the version of yourself who isn't tired, who isn't struggling, who isn't invisible. Most financial advice assumes you're thinking clearly, but under pressure, you're not. Most financial advice assumes you have mental bandwidth to spare, but you don't. Most financial advice assumes you're making rational choices in a calm environment, but you're making survival decisions in a burning building. And here's the thing that makes me angry. The people giving you financial advice don't understand this. They tell you to just save more, or just invest, or just cut expenses. As if you haven't thought of that. As if the problem is information. The problem is not information. The problem is that your brain is under siege and you can't think your way out of a biological crisis. The shift, solutions that actually work. So what do? How do you escape when the problem isn't your knowledge but your neurology? The answer is not more advice. The answer is changing the conditions that are attacking your brain. You have to reduce the pressure first. Before you can think long-term, you have to survive short-term. Step 1. Build the buffer. Not the portfolio. Forget about investing. Forget about retirement. Forget about real estate. Your first and only goal is to save $500, not $5,000, not $50,000, $500. This money is not an investment. This is cognitive insurance. When you have $500 in a separate account that you do not touch, the car breaking down is no longer a crisis. It's an inconvenience. When you have a buffer, your brain stops screaming. your bandwidth returns. Your IQ goes back to normal. This is not about wealth building. This is about brain restoration. Step 2. Automate everything. Your willpower is a finite resource. Every financial decision you have to make drains your bandwidth, so remove the decisions. Set up automatic transfers the day after you get paid. $10, $20, whatever you can afford. The money leaves before your emotional brain knows it exists. You're not trying to be disciplined. You're removing the need for discipline. The researchers Shlomo Benazzi from UCLA and Richard Thaler from the University of Chicago won acclaim for their work on behavioral economics and retirement savings. In their 2004 paper, Save More Tomorrow, published in the Journal of Political Economy, they demonstrated that people who automated their savings saved 3 times more than people who relied on willpower. Automation doesn't require System 2. It runs on autopilot. Step 3. Change your environment, not your mindset. You cannot think your way out of a social environment that's pulling you down. If everyone around you is broken complaining, you will stay broken complaining. This is not because you're weak. This is because human beings are social animals. We mirror the people around us. You need to build a new tribe. And no, I don't mean you need to befriend millionaires. I mean you need to curate your inputs. Unfollow the influencers showing you things you can't afford. Stop watching shows that glorify consumption. Start reading biographies of people who built wealth slowly. Start listening to podcasts about behavioral economics and asset allocation. Your brain learns from repetition. If you repeatedly expose yourself to content about portfolio management and wealth building, your mirror neurons will start to adopt that operating system. You're hacking your social gravity. Step 4. Treat spending like a symptom, not a sin. When you feel the urge to buy something you don't need, stop and ask yourself, what am I actually trying to fix right now? Are you bored? Are you lonely? Are you angry? Are you trying to prove something to someone? The spending is not the problem. The spending is the painkiller. If you just remove the painkiller without addressing the pain, you'll relapse. So address the pain. If you're lonely, call a friend. If you're bored, go for a walk. If you're angry, write it down. This is what psychologists call emotional regulation, and it's a skill you can learn. The more you practice it, the less you'll need consumption to feel okay. Step 5. Rewrite the helplessness. Here's the truth. Your past efforts didn't fail because effort doesn't work. They failed because you were trying to build a skyscraper on quicksand. You were trying to save money while your brain was under attack. But now you know what's happening. Now you know it's not your fault. Now you can separate the biology from the identity. You're not a failure. You're a person whose brain was responding rationally to an irrational environment, and that means you can try again. But this time you're not trying harder. You're trying smarter. You're changing the environment. You're reducing the pressure. You're giving your brain the space it needs to function. The final insight. Here's what I need you to understand. The reason you struggle with money is not because you're broken. It's because the game is rigged, not by a conspiracy, but by biology. Your brain evolved to survive on the savannah where every decision was short-term. Eat now or starve, fight now or die. There was no such thing as retirement planning or compound interest. Your ancestors didn't need to delay gratification for 30 years. They needed to survive until tomorrow, but you're living in a world that punishes short-term thinking. You're living in a world where the only way to win is to think long-term, invest in index funds, build a diversified portfolio, and practice tax loss harvesting. But your brain wasn't built for this world, so you're running ancient software on modern hardware, and everyone's telling you the software is fine, you just need to run it better. But that's a lie. The software is incompatible. You need to update it. And the only way to update it is to change the conditions under which it's running. Reduce the stress, simplify the decisions, automate the behavior, change the environment. You don't need better advice. You need a brain that isn't constantly under attack. Because the moment the pressure lifts, the moment your cognitive bandwidth returns, the moment your emotional brain steps aside and lets your logical brain take the wheel, everything changes. You stop being reactive. You start being strategic. You stop self-medicating with consumption. You start building financial independence. You stop feeling helpless. You start feeling powerful. But it all starts with understanding this. You're not the problem. The conditions are the problem, and conditions can be changed. Now, I want to ask you something. And I want you to be honest, not with me, with yourself. Are you trying to fix your money habits with willpower while your brain is still under siege? Are you beating yourself up for failing when the real problem is that you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back? If the answer is yes, I need you to do something. Stop. Stop blaming yourself. Stop trying harder. Start trying differently. Your brain is not your enemy. Your brain is trying to protect you. It's just using outdated strategies in a modern world, but you can teach it new strategies. You can give it the environment it needs to thrive. And when you do, When you finally release the pressure, when you finally give your brain the bandwidth it deserves, you'll realize something incredible. You were never bad with money. You were just suffocating. And the moment you can breathe, the moment the weight lifts, you'll discover that you've had the capacity all along. You just needed the space to use it. That's all. Thanks for watching.